Welcome to the Africa Economic Forum YouTube channel. As global economic landscapes evolve, the potential re-election of Donald Trump brings key policy shifts that could impact trade, diplomacy, and investments between the USA and Africa. In this insightful session, industry leaders, policy experts, and economists explore the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. From trade agreements to strategic partnerships, this discussion is crucial for businesses, investors, and policymakers navigating the future of U.S. Africa relations. Stay tuned for expert perspectives, data-driven analysis, and forward-thinking strategies. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth conversations on Africa's economic growth. Now, let's dive into the discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's event. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yeah, sure. I'm hearing you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Precious Ikemba, and today's event will be discussing on Donald Trump's second-term policies, implications, and potential impact on USA trade and relations with Africa. So to take us further in this event, I would like to invite Professor Bramwell Amadasun. He is a professor of public administration and public policy of the Federal University of Bukari, Taraba State, and also a member of AEF Board of Economics and Committee on Nigeria. So, sir, Professor Bramwell, over to you for the introductory speech. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Can you hear?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud
Can
and
you hear me?
To check. I think, excuse, there should be some few housekeeping rules. Turn off the microphones of everybody, and then you unmute people who are supposed to speak. Otherwise, having so many interruptions and the entire consulted to speak, you unmute.
Yes, I think I see that. Thank you so much. Do a few corrections. Usually, I don't know my first name as Bramwell. The first name actually is Bramwell is the I want to begin this presentation first and foremost Trump, character. We actually need to know so that we can focus our mind as to where we are heading to. Now, essentially, he has four characters, and the first is that of maintaining America's hegemony. Maintaining America's hegemony, because the way it stands today, America's hegemony, usually there were two hegemons, the United States of America and eventually the Soviet Union, went over the edge. And that's from when it became a unipolar superpower till date, that hegemony have actually been threatened. And it has actually eroded the self-confidence of the United States in itself. And Trump sees himself as a character who is to restore that hegemony. That is preventing a power transition. Because presently, the way it stands, American hegemony is being threatened by power is either moving towards the direction of China or towards the direction of Russia, the Russia Federation. And so for now, he sees himself as that character that must retain that. The second one, he has a character of that person who should develop a patronage network, a political and economic network, and which means that there's a hierarchy of powers that diverge among the superpowers, among those who are aspiring to take over from the United States, which he, as the keeper of the United States empire, is committed to maintaining. So he has a character of developing a patronage network. And again, simply put, the character is that he's transactional. He's transactional. And what that means is it has to do with the buying and selling of America as a nation. So, and it's out there to come in whatever transaction or negotiation that is engaged in worldwide, not just within the American state. And so he sees himself as his character is highly transactional. If America has nothing to gain in it, well, he's not going to go there. If America has something to go, he'll go there and reap the profits. So his character is transactional. And of course, the third character is that he's American-centric. He's trying to redefine United States historic mission of self-confidence and dominance. Very dominant in the global sphere. And of course, yes, that's to be described as big, bold, exhibits this character, clearly exhibits this character. So having said that,
we are no longer hearing the presenter. You ask him to mute and
me. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We are
yes.
hearing you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Fine. Like I said in a nutshell, I said Trump exhibits three characters: maintaining the American hegemony, developing a patriot work, and aspect is that his fourth character is that he's American-centric. In modern times, and along self-confidence and dominance. So having said that, I would love to go into the global issues, and so first and foremost, the issue here will be how is Africa going to fit into this character? Patronage network, transactional, and American-centric character of Trump. It's very important if we have to do anything. It's very, very important, or else we will be, again, very serious underdog in the next 4 years of his reign. So, but before then, if Africa must benefit, then we must, first and foremost, ask ourselves, how is Africa now? And that question takes us to the issue of trying to define who Africa is for now. For now, Africa is split into an uncoordinated, competing, and non-synergized, unproductive regions. Highly non-synergized, highly competing with themselves on a dog-eat-dog basis. And of course, their actions is has context. You can find out that Africa is highly divided into 7 regions. Firstly, you have the African Arab would actually finding Trump's policies within the very, very difficult. You have the sub-Saharan Africa that believes as if they are a different region within the African context. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Fine. Again, you have the sub-Saharan region. You have the Sahel region, which is also common, and it's almost into two. You just have the Sahel region states, and that is not the complete number of the states that make up the Sahel region, but they are trying to forge their way forward. You also have the Central and South African regions, which is also highly uncoordinated. So, and of course, the actions are unproductive and not synergized. You also have the Lone Ranger, the South Africa, which is trying to come up as a Lone Ranger. I just hope it doesn't make mistakes that Nigeria made, and so it becomes a target of the whole of the West. And once it becomes a target, it means they will pull it down at all costs. And of course, one thing is you don't confront America, and that is what South Africa is currently doing. You don't do that. You know, again, you have the second narrative. And because the second narrative of this my discourse of presentation, it has to do with Trump. From Trump, and we have to define this clearly, or else we'll also be in murky waters. Firstly, we must be able to look for continental development. We must look for a relationships that talk about productive trade. And of course, we must also ask Trump to assist us to develop a kleptomatic democracy. And what do we mean by when we talk about kleptomatic democracy? Talking of a disorder that involves repeatedly unable to resist urges to public treatment that by the political elites as well as the business and even ecclesiastical elites. Because our democracy in Africa is not democracy. It's kleptomatic in nature. And we get there, it is an opportunity to lose. From South Africa to the far north, as far as Cairo, and then running from east to west, the same story all through. So if we must develop a responsive government, do it all, practicing. We have adopted an ideology, democratic ideology, which we did not actually fathom, which we did not produce. Now, of course, we have not been able to inculcate into it our values. And for us to be able to do this, unless the United States decides in Africa to do so, Africa will not, because from time to time, it will be having a corrupted ideology being sold to us to adopt. And that's a huge problem. And of course, our trading system too must also be defined, not just within the context of AGOA, which is African Growth and Opportunities Act. Also look for continental development. We must ask for this. It is no shame to ask for these three things. Continental development, which the United States has all it takes to assist us to do. When the European had this World War, the United States developed a Monroe Doctrine for them. And that doctrine assisted Europe. Not the same thing for Africa. This is just coming, and he has said that he is colorblind in his policies. He has said that categorically he's colorblind, even though he makes no specific offerings to Africa. Neither did he do that also to the other continents. But we must put our demands in a basket and present it before him. We must do that, as a single whole, with subsets, and say this is what we want. And what we want is a continental development. We also want some level of continental, independence, in order to enable this development to take place. And we want productive trade which is not encumbered by foreign policies. And I think when we articulate this and put them together, then he would act. But if we don't articulate what we want, how will he know what we want? It's not in the continent. It's in a continent that is blessed with so many things. their forebears have actually developed so many things that we enable them to develop. But now we're in a deep situation, a deep mess, which we need to come out.
So these are issues we need to look at. Like I said, when you talk about the implications, you cannot fight a giant because, of course, U.S. Trump is making these policies because it's had a strength in terms of how we use those opportunities and develop a comparative advantage in international trade to have a small mini advantage. And I'm sure U.S. be a capitalist nation. That's one thing you should know. U.S. is a capitalist nation, and their product entries to markets depends on what they can make there. And that is good. If you go to the U.S., I was in Chicago, I was in Atlanta. If you have a good business idea, the government can play with you. Okay, the extent that Trump is beginning to come up with a policy is because, like Prof said, the Americans are wasting so much resources and revenue in areas that are not benchmarking on. There is no profit. As a capitalist, you need to make profit to continue in that business. And that's the essence of entrepreneurship. And that's the reason that benchmarking and develop in those areas. So until we can have an advantage, have a strength, and come up with which area we can attract foreign direct investment and boost that, that will enable America to support that. The policies of, another characteristic of Trump is that he's a businessman. He's a businessman in politics, though he's proud about it. But I tell you, if Africans can organize ourselves, look at the areas of our strength, of course, we can go to a negotiation table. Of course, a Nigerian is the president of World Trade Organization. Because if we hadn't got that strength, that qualification, and this including have been there, so that has given us a strength. So let's not cry about it. Let's go back to the drawing table. Look at the areas we can harness ourselves. What can we now present as a bait? And I tell you, Trump will be interested. Trump is a bit pissed off in African sub-region because, one, we are not sincere. We are even to we are there is a of the from Africa that was taken to Indonesia has actually made Indonesia war pass area of unfinished that we can export gradually. We can.
I really want to thank both of you for availing us your opportunity. I can see our politician says he still wants to say, but I think we'll reserve him when the next panel.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Paul.
I really want to thank Dr. Paul and Moses Aibio for the opportunity of availing.
I think I was just being told that.
I want to hand over
really
Precious to lead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hope. So we'll move on to our next presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Hope. Which will be on. So we'll move on to the U.S. immigration. To our preparing for the next phase under Trump. Our speaker, Professor Victor, a professor of international law and and a member of the advisory board of the AFC Sovereign Debt Management, Abuja. Professor Victor is a renowned expert in international relations and global policy, and today he will share insights on how Trump's immigration policy may shape U.S. Africa relations. Please join me in welcoming Professor Odueme Victor. Professor Odueme, are you there?
Yes, I'm
I have an
here. Good
observation.
afternoon, everyone.
Please. Hello, I have an observation. Hope and Moses, I don't know if you are in the same room. So Miss Hope's speech keeps reviving.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, so talking about American, the recent development with the inauguration of President Donald Trump, how he relates with immigration explains the details of what we've been saying today. First, Donald Trump is not saying anything new when he talks about American thought. What he's doing is just echoing that truism. America has always been selfish with its policies and ventures all over the world, and the selfishness here is not being used in a negative term; it's used in the positive sense, because I have come to understand is the soul for preservation, even for humans, even though the word selfishness may be tagged negative. In some quarters, that word is used as self-preservation. So what Trump is doing is exactly preserving America, and what the implication for the rest of the world is that the rest of the world need and begin to look inwards for their own self-actualization, whether you call it selfishness. Now, the other point that I need to make before I proceed is that the mantra of American First is more like talking to the Native Americans, the original owners of America, if there are people like that. And that accounts for the reason why Trump was massively voted for the second time amidst all that was being said about him. For a long time in the history of America, we were able to see the citizens come out, a few of them all rather coming to Capitol Hill to protest when the tide was against Donald Trump. Those are the people who Donald Trump is actually reminding that all the American policies is American first. Having said that, as regards immigration, we in Africa and most other Black nations and countries who are not doing very well, maybe I should use the word developing countries to identify them. We do not have basic, let me say, we do not have essentially what it needs to contribute and compete to the reason for the height of immigration and people running to the United States, including those of their immediate neighbors. So I do not think that what Donald Trump wants to do is to cut out immigration completely. No, he wants to filter immigration so that he can also get the quality of persons who will actually help in the next phase of American development, which talks about looking inwards, tapping into what America has, and going outside to the ends of the world to ensure that all that America needs is gotten. That has been said by his the kite he threw to Saudi Arabia, towards asking them to say, look, if you pay this amount, you'll be the first nation I'll visit after becoming for 7th president of the United States. So if you look at the quality of immigrants that are running to the United States, particularly those of them who are coming from the neighborhood of the United States, you find that those people are low-end workers. They are undocumented, so their impact on the economy may not exactly be felt. And what we need to know now is that America is not actually, particularly interested in what the rest of the world is doing at this point because of the hegemonic nature of their reign as the number one in the world. So When it comes to immigration, what should we expect from Africa? I am thinking that the governments of Africa and the rest of the developing world should also start behaving like America. And when I say that, I mean they should also be looking at their own countries first, Nigeria first, Africa first. What that means is that if we also look at the broader picture, being created by Donald Trump, particularly by pulling out from the World Health Organization, and this withdrawal as a signatory, as a participant to the Paris Agreement on climate change, and his insistence on further exploitation of fossil fuel, we will need to step back and think before we start engaging with America again at the productive level. The last speaker talked about Ajokuta Steel and the impact it could have on the Nigerian economy. That is excellent. I think we should do greater than that. If you are a student of environmental law and you know the extent to which the rest of the world, particularly the developing countries in Africa and Nigeria, you will think again. They are advising us to stop further incursion into the exploration of our own natural resources, particularly it has to do with fossil fuel. And in the pact that was created, Africa was just to come with basket as usual to come and collect money from what is called carbon trade. So that what means is that there's a furtherance of the colonization that's been going on, which many of you will agree that is seen in the aspect of diplomacy that the West and including China are using to rope in the rest of the world, particularly Africa and Nigeria. So this is the new direction of the world. The immigration policies will not cut out immigrants. What it will do is to try to rearrange them such that those who are already in the United States will probably have to be documented so that their impact on the economy will be safe. And those who are yet to come in will be properly filtered to fit into the new direction the American economy is headed under Donald Trump. And if you recall the contribution energy gives to America, you find out that once they explore that again, they will be able to show up the level of productivity they have in the United States. And that's exactly why they are also shooting the idea of electric vehicles, which they do not have comparative advantage as it stands. And what they're doing is to reposition their economy to give them comparative advantage again. That's not saying that they do not have it, but they're trying to reject that for the days ahead. So when we're talking about how it affects Africa, I think we should also begin to develop our economy such that our own people will remain here. People get certificates, people get skills, and the only place they can turn it into productive use for their own sake is in the United States or such other developing countries. I think we should start beginning to look inwards to redirect that movement such that even those of them who have already gotten skills there can come back here and help develop our economy so that we can also be competitive. This is being said on the background that America is a capitalist state and they do not shy away from it. They do not hide that. And we may not know that the kind of capitalism that is sold to the rest of the world is not exactly the kind of capitalism they are practicing. We need to look inwards to begin to understand the kind of capitalism they practice so that we can put that in place in our own states, in our own continents, in our own economic sub-regions, so that we can derive the most benefit that can come from capitalism. And that's actually the biggest model for development around the world. And somebody has already said it, that Africa does not have any people. We are capitalist. We are capitalist by name, and sometimes we are socialist by gestures. And what this means is that we do not have a direction. We do not have nobody can predict where our economy is headed, because one man will come in as a president, and the next day he's beginning to do give away policies where whatever money comes, he uses to buy commodity to share people. Instead of looking at the economy will grow, and maybe the lowest society will act the government. So having said all that, let me whisked away, and where the economy of the country is in shambles because America or whoever cares might be interested in making sure there's instability in the country so that those policies do not, grow to the extent that it will give some level of a higher autonomy to the country. So we need to begin to look inwards, so that we do not have to be so much worried about America closing its own borders. We should actually be more concerned about, even closing our own borders so our own people can remain here, have a system that accommodates them, have a system that allows everybody to use its own skills for the betterment, for the collective use of the state, the Nigerian state for that matter. And I think that's my take on the present outlook of the United States with regards to its immigration policy under Donald Trump. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Odueme, for that lovely presentation. So we'll now move on to our question and answer. I can see some hands are being raised up so that he can attend to those questions. So over to you. I can see Esther Ikomi and Motala Mohammed. So this is Esther. Please, over to you. Please ask your question. Hello. Any question?
It's okay. Let me. Hello. Yeah, let me add a little bit here. Hello?
Yes, go on, sir. Please go on, sir.
Hello?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello?
Please go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Can I hear you, sir? Please go ahead.
Hello? Okay, it's all right. What Dr. Odome has just analyzed is a reality. The truth remains that the American immigration system is trying to filter the population so that the very best from other countries is what they will allow in. And that actually is the support of the American First policy. But one thing I see, one of the serious implications, which I think African countries should get set for, because it's an implication, is that we tend to drive the immigration towards Europe, more towards Europe than towards America. And what that means is that the European system will tighten up their immigration laws and further drive them back to Africa. So the question here is, how prepared is Africa to receive those populations that will be driven from America and Europe? Because the American first policy will force populations of America, and then those populations will have to fall back on Europe, and then they will have to fall back finally on Africa. So how prepared? We must begin to look at it and get our system prepared to receive those who will be coming back and perhaps become resolute to building the African continent. That is number one. Number two is, how prepared are we to accommodate the technology? If we now have a population that is falling back to Africa, that is, there's a kind of backward movement back to Africa rather than to Europe and America because of the tightened policies which emanated from America first, then it then means that a lot of technology, because these human resources that will be falling back will not be those that don't have what it takes. They will be highly skilled labor, and they want to leave those systems. And so when they leave, how prepared are we to take them in and activate those knowledge with which they came back to us? I think it's a serious implication we have to look at.
Thank you so much, Prof. Even though you've answered the question, but we know that the way the world runs now is on what is called the disruption of the system.
Yes.
Africa is not ready. Africa is not ready for any of these eventualities. And we have a governance system that does not allow those who have that vision to come close to governance. So what will happen is that those things will come and cause an implosion that may bring up, an economic revolution in Africa. Of course, after every revolution, the countries tend to do better. We can benchmark that on what has happened to Japan and Germany since at the end of the Second World War. And then again, my own fear here is that Nigeria did not derive any benefit from its civil war. Many countries who came out of civil war did a lot better, including Rwanda. Just with that 90 days experience, you can see what Rwanda has become. But Nigeria didn't derive any benefit from its civil war. And it may necessarily go towards the end of implosion. And at the end of that implosion, we'll either shape in or shape out.
Yes. I tend to agree with you on that note. Seriously, I agree with you on that note. But again, there is also a problem. There is also a problem we might likely run into in terms of population. What happens when you filter out the undocumented African migrants? What happened to the generations they are leaving behind? Because they all have produced children that do not have any affiliation to Africa. These are serious issues we need to consider. Because a generation, for instance, is currently moving out of Nigeria to America. And they have children who do not know anything about Eastern Nigeria, about Western Nigeria, Northern Nigeria, or Southern Nigeria. And suddenly their parents are being shipped out of America back to Nigeria. I think these are serious migration problems we are going to be facing. Because when these children grow up, they might become, perhaps, nuisance to those systems. And how do we intend to look at it? I think we need to look at these implications seriously.
Thank you, Prof. I think if I'm permitted to comment at this point.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much. I'm Dr.
I'm
Ogini.
hearing you.
I'm a senior fellow of the Africa Economic Forum, the head financing hub. It's been a very insightful discussions that we have had, that we should look at what we should do. The positive aspect of Donald Trump's policy, particularly on immigration, and his America for America mantra. Like, one of the speakers, I don't know whether it was Professor Anderson that said it. The truth is that Trump is setting an example for leadership across the world, not only in Africa. If America is saying, Trump is saying America for America, then Tinubu should be saying Nigeria for Nigerians. Tinubu should not be saying Nigeria for IMF. Tinubu should not be saying Nigeria for France. There are some things that, we must look inside and within. Look, if we're talking about resources, God has blessed Nigeria with resources for development. We have human manpower, we have good climate, we have, natural resources. There is nothing that we do not have to to become a superpower, not only on the continent, but across the globe. Those technological developments in America and in Europe, if you get to the bottom, many of them are driven by Africans, and most of the time, even Nigerians. So we have what it takes in terms of intelligence. We have what it takes in terms of manpower. But the issue we are having here is that we do not have a leadership that is patriotic. We don't have leaders that believe in Nigeria for Nigerians. And that is the problem. Somebody said one of the things that Africa should be working towards now, the African Union should be working towards now, based on this policy, is to make it difficult for Nigerian leaders and other Nigerians that steal money from Nigeria to be able to deposit any other country of the world. If African Union can achieve that, it will be great. So that nobody who steals money from this continent can go and drop it in Switzerland or drop it in any bank in America or in Europe. This will be a step towards making sure that we begin to look inwards to address our own problems by ourselves and for ourselves. Now, the issue of the American immigrants, the African American immigrants that will be coming home based on this policy, you see, planning is very important. We know that, yes, this is going to take a toll on a lot of people. But then, how is our country planning? I remember when the Ukrainian war started. When the Ukrainian war started, Ghana took the American students from medical school. They took the medical students, they integrated them into medical schools in Ghana. Many other countries in Africa did. What did Nigeria do? Many of the students that left Ukraine up to now are not any, in fact, most of them are psychologically disturbed. Many of them have become depressed. What is Nigeria doing? about this policy. Instead of, crying over spilled milk, what I think that we should be doing is begin to look within and put in place, strategies to, to absorb the shock that is coming. How are we going to prepare for it? Yes. In terms of people coming in with high-tech, high-level technology, it could be an advantage for us. It could be an advantage for us. When people know that they don't have anywhere to go, they will insist on good governance in their own country. That is what I am talking about. The positive aspect of Donald Trump's policy now is that those who are, if this place is not good, we can run to somewhere else. If we are not wanted there, we're not getting the best there, we can run to somewhere else. Where we have run to, they said, you don't belong here, go back to your place. Then they would not just, turn the other eye when they see people stealing Nigeria dry, when they see people, misgoverning Nigeria, they will come and say, look, this country belongs to us. We must get it right. And this is my own position on this. That's why I believe that, we should not just be looking at the negative aspect of Donald Trump's policy. We must look at the positive aspect as it can contribute to the development on the continent. Thank you very much.
Hello, can I come in?
Yes,
Hello?
you can. Go ahead.
Just give me a second. Just give me a second.
Thomas, you may have seen.
Just give me a
my
second.
name is Murtala Mamaraj. I'm a professor of international and strategic studies. I was a former senior research fellow at Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Lagos. I like the way the discussion is going, and it's good. I'm excited. I'm happy that I've joined the conversation. Importantly, what Nigeria needs, as most of the speakers mentioned, is strong, purposeful, and focused leadership. We need a leadership with Trump in power, actually. His kind of first policy on Africa. We need to actually prioritize national interest foreign interests. Nigeria must adopt a foreign policy rooted in economic nationalism. That is exactly what Trump is doing. And he said America first. This involves Nigeria should place emphasis on economy, security, political interests, and diplomatic negotiations, actually. Focusing on securing deals with other world leaders, America and some other places. And Nigeria also needs to strengthen its regional leadership in Africa. Nigeria, we were said to be the giant of Africa. I'm not sure if we are giant of Africa. So Nigeria should consolidate its leadership, especially in ECOWAS and in the African Union, by championing African solutions to African problems. Nigeria should be, this thing actually happened. So some 30 years ago, Nigeria single-handedly spearheaded a mission that brought about peace in Liberia and Sierra Leone. And some 50 years ago, we have a leader that is strong, focused, and purposeful. A strong leader said when he went, there is this mission, this statement that is coming from America. And he said no to what America are trying to, bulldoze into African affairs. He said Africa has come of age. We need leaders like that. We need leaders that will place us on leadership position. And we also need to diversify foreign alliances with multipolar world. We are living in an exciting world where you have blocks, you have BRICS, you have G20, you even have Mint. Why Nigeria I wrote a paper some time ago on why should Nigeria bother joining or going into BRICS. We can also have Mint. There is suggestion from some experts that actually promoted BRICS. They said there may be Mint, Malaysia, Indonesia, Nigeria, and I think Thailand, or is it Turkey? So we need to have something like that. And we can also leverage on Trump policies on bilateral trade. We can capitalize on his policy on fair trade to negotiate bilateral trade agreement with United States, ensuring better market access to Nigeria.
Please, sir, can you round
Nigeria
up?
has oil. We can improve on our. Thank you so much. I'm done. I have a lot to say, but it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me? Okay, thank you very much for your questions and comments. And to Professor Dueme, thank you for the engaging responses, and Professor Bramwell. It has been a valuable presentation. So we'll move on to our second panel discussion on a crucial topic, that is the potential implications of Trump's immigration policies on African immigrants and refugees in the USA. We are honored to have an esteemed panel of experts who will offer their insights on this complex and pressing issue. Let me introduce our distinguished panelists. The first is Professor Bramwell Amadasun, a professor of public administration and public policy at the Federal University, Wukari, and member of the AEF Board of Economics Country Committee for Nigeria Committee, I beg your pardon. Professor Bramwell brings a wealth of knowledge in governance and policy reform. And then we have Professor Dueme Victor, a professor of international law and diplomacy at Veritas University and a member of the AEF Center for Sovereign Debt Management Advisory Board. Professor Victor's insights into international law and diplomacy will guide our understanding of the legal aspects of immigration policies. We are also privileged to have our speaker, Barrister Mrs. Charity Ene Unogu, from the Faculty of Law at Veritas University, Abuja. Barrister Unogu is a respected legal expert who will bring her expertise in law and human rights to the discussion. Please join me in welcoming our panelists as we dive into this important conversation. The floor is yours. Let's begin the conversation. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. Let me begin by saying that immigration laws, to an extent, has not been, is colorblind, it's race blind. And like we said in our previous thing, it's actually meant to filter out the very best for the American system, because where America is now by Trump's declaration is America first. But having said that, there are problems that Africans are likely to face. We're likely to face the issue of population explosion. And of course, when they are being repatriated, you're also likely to face the issue of how to settle them into the population on ground, and how to make them relevant. And of course, again, one other issue that we are also likely to face is the issue of evacuation. And from where do they do they start their life at fresh? If the immigration policy is to expel illegal immigrants, which I think Africa has a large number, then the question is, how prepared is Africa in terms of evacuating this population when necessary, in terms of rehabilitating them when necessary, and in terms of how the explosion, how the amenities that might have to cater for them, the structures on grounds, and of course the infrastructures that will have to take care of them. We will be confronted. But above all is how we are going to make them relevant to the development aspirations of the system. With that, let me leave the floor open for the other members of the panel, particularly Professor Dement, to kick off the real debate on the issue. Professor Dement Victor, please. Professor.
Thank you so much.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Yes, so let's hear your view.
Yeah, so
on these issues that is certainly going to confront us in terms of.
Yeah, so I have taken my time to look at the possible eventualities, that may be imminent, pursuant to the present American disposition towards immigrants.
Yes.
And as I mentioned earlier, those who will be critically affected will be.
Professor Victor, we can't hear you clearly.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, Professor Victor. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm saying that I've taken my time to look at the eventualities,
Yes.
the fallouts from the American president's position now, which I said every other country should emulate. Those will be affected in the immediate would be the so-called undocumented immigrants who are in the informal sector.
Yeah.
At the long run, it will affect those of them who are skilled. Now, let me tell you that as we speak at this moment, I do not see, in fact, I do not even imagine that the federal government of Nigeria and other governments that may be affected, other nationalities that may be affected, have any idea that this may be a backlash that will come as a possibility from the implementation of the current immigration policies in the U.S. And what that means is that no plan is being made. What you will see happening
On ground,
days to
yes.
come. Yeah, what you see happening in days to come will be Abike Dabri and her agency will start making noise, sending maybe APs to go and bring them back. And when they are brought back, nobody hears about them again.
Right.
And the first round of problems we'll have is that many of them will die, unfortunately. Why I'm saying this is that from experience, you see that when people return from overseas over a long time, particularly those who have stayed there for upwards of 15, 20 years, their immediate communities are the ones to reject them. Why does that happen?
Good.
People have appropriated their properties at home. Many of them who had investments at home, the money had been misused. So what happens is that the moment you touch base and you want to stay, they want to, erase the person from the equation. So, but I had already stated that the end point of all of this, however it pans out, is there will be a disruption in the system.
Certainly.
It might lead to societal collapse, particularly if it's not phased. I don't know whether there's any government agency that is present in this conversation, and I don't think they're having this conversation anywhere. We need to escalate this conversation to go beyond this African Economic Forum, to governments that will be affected. I hope Dr. Uweja is taking note, and all of us who are here. Yes. We need to make this a conversation that should start now. I'm happy that someone from NIA is here. NIA is here. We need to start talking about this immediately. We need to start, pulling up conferences that are within. I don't mean conferences that only intellectuals come. I mean conferences that have policymakers
and all inclusive
and academics on the table. Yes, an all-inclusive conference where these issues are discussed. Because if it's not properly managed, there'll be chaos in the first instance.
Yes.
And that might bring the nation to its knees, particularly because of the kind of a patriarchal system of government we've been running since 1999. So I think that what we need to do is we need to look inwards, create systems that will accommodate those who are coming back, and also make sure that the shock is not so much, both for the nation and those who are coming and those who are already in place. That's my take on it at this moment.
My prof,
yes,
sir.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry to interject. So don't you think there is a need for a common front? There's a need for the African Union to study the policy seriously and adopt a common front which they will present to the United States government.
Yes, I agree with you, sir. In fact, that was what I wanted to say before this panel started, because I guess it was you that mentioned the African Union. Unfortunately, I do not have any hope. I don't have any trust on what African Union can do. I have done a paper where I analyzed that at California State University many years ago, where I was saying that the three players in the African Union are a committee of best of the same feather. Is it from mention all the heads of state in Africa or heads of government?
Yes.
How have they done well in their own countries? I mean, including the most beautiful Rwanda.
Yes.
Is there something that's been muted now that Rwanda may have to collapse once Kagame leaves? Because what has happened is that those who are involved in those genocide, the victims of those genocide, were shut down. They were shut down. If you had the opportunity of interviewing the victims themselves, I was at Arusha, briefly, and I wrote papers based on the outcome of the tribunal. I had the opportunity of meeting victims. I had the opportunity of meeting some of the prisoners. You find out that they were just shut up. So the anger has been bottled, and people are beginning
Yes,
to
bottled.
say that wonder what happens in post Kagame Rwanda. And I'm thinking that it's not out of place. Just like I said, that we should have an enlarged discussion on this. African Union can champion it if they care, but then the runners of those places are people I do not count
Also,
seriously on.
agents.
Yeah, but let me try providing a solution. If most political scientists here, in particular, or social scientists here, will know the history of the development of cholera vaccine. You know, if we go back to those days and take away this conversation, let African Union create the forum for this conversation, and maybe leave the driving wheel. They should stay off the steering wheel, and stay out and bring technocrats and academics to discuss this thing and profile solution. That will work. But if it's the head of states themselves or those funded by government, those who are members of their government championing this cause, will not achieve much. So I think they should set up a team of experts. And when I mean a team of experts, I mean industrial players and academics. You know, maybe policymakers can also stay in the room. You know, so that we can fashion out a solution.
Kind of stakeholders conference.
Yeah, stakeholders conference, but this is what needs to be done. I mean, it ought to have been done since we had Trump, since Trump won the election. But the best time to start is actually now.
Yes. Again, yes. But don't you think this the division between the francophones, the anglophones, the saxophones, and all that makes up the continent, we actually have a kind of negative impact. Should we also leave it to the union? Or should we leave it to a supranational body? Because ECOWAS, for instance, is already dismembered. It's already dismembered with the Anglophones moving one side, and of course the Francophones almost on one side. And then a few of those who were colonized by the Spanish and Portuguese government, like Cape Verde and Amacabra, Guinea-Bissau, you know, I think those two countries there, which I think were colonized by Spanish or the Portuguese, you know, there's sort of already is very serious divisions. And then if African Union is to form a single front to attack this issue of immigrations, because definitely we will be seriously affected, because there's a huge population movement out of Africa because of the economic crunch. And now you are not going to push them back. Do you think there's likelihood a kind of how do I call it now? Kind of agreement between these blocks, uniting to produce a single action as to how these immigrants, unaccounted for documented immigrants, will be treated because of these U.S. policies.
So let me say that adversity should force us to forge that union if it doesn't, which doesn't exist. Of course, many of us will understand why the division between the Anglophone, you know, the Francophone, and the rest of other, you know, pockets of ex-colonies in Africa are working in silos.
Yes.
If you look at what is going on in ECOWAS, when ECOWAS was ECOWAS, I mean, before the pulling out of the few states in the
Sahel countries,
the Sahel region, the Sahel countries. If you look at how things go on there, where conferences come, irrespective of language, irrespective of political leanings, you know, they were able to make some achievements, you know, particularly with the idea of prosecuting the war in Liberia and the rest of them. Adversity should force us to forge that union again.
That's go front.
The only challenge, or the only thing I see as a snag here, is that most of the immigrants will be affected by United States. And I think it was also you that mentioned that what will happen is that when these guys are pushed away from the United States, they will try European countries. And the European countries and Asian countries are not known to be that welcoming like America is. So that would be a big challenge. The big challenge is that they will come back home.
Now, the slightest problem I foresee here is that the Francophone countries are not exactly affected. What I mean, not exactly affected, I don't know statistics here, but I know that the immigration tends towards France. So,
France,
and
yes.
I do not know the population in the US and in the
US,
other European countries. So I'm thinking that however it is, at the African Union level, just like I said, we should look at is I'm not talking about African Union as African Union heads of state or any of their current agencies championing this. I'm talking about them creating a multi-purpose vehicle that accommodates the technocrats and policymakers and academics. Why I keep talking about academics is because of the element of disruption. It's only academics oftentimes that think outside the box.
Yes.
So when that is done, adversity should force us, mark my words, adversity should force us to look away from our blocks, yes, look away from, walk away from our block allegiance. Yes, walk away from, block allegiance and come back and face our own block, which is the African Union or ECOWAS or SADC, as the case may be, because this will affect us negatively. And it has been said before that, for instance, if Nigeria goes to war and is a war that affects the whole of Nigeria, the rest of Africa, West Africa, for instance, will not be able to contain Nigerian population that will spill over, both as refugees, as migrants, and whatever. What this means is that, bearing in mind that their neighbors are more of the Francophone countries, they should pay attention. They should be interested in what the immigration policies have, even if it means that it's going to affect Nigeria and the rest of the Anglophone countries in Africa directly or more. So I think it can be done. Adversity should force us to do it. Common sense should force us to form this alliance now. Yes, sir.
I think it's a good explanation. I appreciate you.
Prof,
we might come back to you, Prof.
Prof, I would I need to make some, I would like to make some addition to that.
Okay.
Yeah, like Prof. Professor Deme just said, yes, adversity should bring us together. And it is true that it is in times of adversity that our ingenuities can really come out the best.
Yes, that's
we know
true.
that Africans are ingenious.
Yes.
It is just that, we have become so dependent on, Europe and America that we have refused to, task ourselves and develop our ingenuity towards, the things that really matter to us. Now that we are beginning to see that, yes, number one, in terms of, donor funding and overseas, development assistance, we have seen a dwindling pattern over the years. And with this policy of Donald Trump, that is going to reduce significantly. Now, what I think we should do, like Professor Odeme was talking about the academics, yes, we need to bring academics together with industry. We need to begin to develop
not just only academics and industry. We also need to bring in the bureaucracy because they are actually at the forefront of foreign policies. Don't you think so?
You're right, sir. We do. We need to bring the bureaucracy as well. And then we begin to develop, okay, now everything starts and, stops with data. We're talking about data. What's the data? What's the figure actually of the likely population that we are going to be having to grapple with?
Yes.
Do we have any, statistics on this matter? I believe in the next few weeks, Donald Trump and his administration will be bringing out,
a lot of statistics,
names and the numbers. Yes, a lot of statistics. And then we'll begin to, how do we begin to be preemptive?
Yes.
Abike Dabri is there. What is Abike Dabri doing? What are we going to be telling Abike Dabri to do now?
Yes.
How are we going to, make her take the right step towards, let's put in place something to cushion the effect of this population that we are going to be receiving, which is very certain. And then how do we begin to categorize these populations? Because some of them will be highly skilled. Some of them will, have things that can bring positive development to us in this country. So how do we begin to separate them so that we know who to sue, so we know how to absorb them?
These are good issues you have actually raised, and I wish that the executive, when I mean the executive, the ministers and the agencies responsible were present here. But all the same, I thank you. Let me interject a bit by bringing in Mrs. Charity,
Okay.
Barrister Mrs. Charity.
Okay.
I hope she's around. Hello? Hello, Barrister Mrs. Charity Onogo. Is she around? Okay. If she's not around, let me throw this question. Perhaps the group will be able to look at it. Hello? Hello? Is she around? Okay. The question that also bothers me a lot is that how are we going to treat of reparation? These people certainly would have a lot of properties in the US. They will have also contributed to the United States and so on and so forth, even if, you know, they are undocumented. And to a very great extent, a great number too will be documented by the policies he's trying to put in place. So how are we going to do with the issue of reparation? How do we handle it?
May I come in?
Yes, go ahead. If we have a barrister here. Is that Mrs. Charity Onogo?
Yes, sir.
Fine, madam. How do we deal with the issue of reparation? Because these people will have properties there and they are just taken out of their houses overnight and sent back to Africa. They have bank accounts, they have houses, and some of them even have serious industrial setups in those places. So what do we do? The issue of reparation is very critical in this instance. How are we going to deal with it?
It's a potential for revolution. There's going to be a revolution. That's a summary of everything. Because these are people that have been exposed to human rights practices and they know how to demand for their rights and equality. So if they can't have it in a foreign land, like in the United States, and they are forced back to their countries, what you are going to have is that they demand their rights from their government. And we know the status quo, they will be resisted. And then the next thing is going to be a revolution. And I think that's what we've been waiting for. I don't know whether it's a good thing to say, but there is no way forward in this present economy and Nigerian governance without
a revolution.
Yes, there is no way. And if I may say, these people that are trying to be repatriated, if I may say, the people in their home, the home ties are heavily dependent on them. A lot of people are surviving in this harsh condition because they have one person or the other in the United States or in the UK and all of these foreign lands. And if that source of income is no more there, and those very people are coming home, honestly, there is no option that
but let me remind you of something, Barrister. In history, whether in the United States, in Russia, in France, in Czechoslovakia, in history has it that there's no place where somebody who is fighting to keep the stomach infrastructure alive ever leads a revolution. They don't ever lead it. It is always the rich that leads the revolution. They are fed up of the system. And again, that is number one. I want you to look at it from this angle, because that's why I'm saying their wealth will have been stuck in the United States.
Yes.
So which wealth are they going to use in mobilizing a revolution? Revolution all over the world, whether in England, whether in France.
The problem we have in revolutionizing this country or even Africa is not funds. We don't know.
But what I think if you think of Barrister is that it's going to be a bloodless revolution. Is that not what you're thinking of?
We pray so, sir, but you know, the people who are exposed, like the kind of things that we bear in our country or in Africa, you cannot try that in foreign countries. And these are people that have lived their life in that environment. A lot of them would not bother. They will want to give up their life. The election.
It's okay, but what do you think will be the legal implication of the wealth they have left behind in America? What is the legal implications for us? Because they cannot. Africa has been shouting about reparation of slave trades, what do they call it? Property rights and so on and so forth. Reparation of what they have taken out of Africa. But now they are pulling back the human beings that have worked for such system over time. And of course, it's not restricted to just Africans. But what do you think will be the legal implications for us as Africans? Not only legal implications, developmental implications in terms of reparating their wealth. Their wealth might run into billions of US dollars that they are leaving behind. So what do you think should be the legal implications?
You know, I know that United States of America mean well, just like my boss said. They mean well, they are very good-hearted people. And I believe if you have a legal possessions or properties in the United States and you are being repatriated, I think they will listen to you. They will listen to a logical appeal to get their properties, the ones that are movable, and then essentially maybe converting them to cash, like selling of properties in that place if they have buyers. Americans are not, let me to say in a calm way, we Africans, we are selfish. We can take over people's
But yes, barrister, look at it from this angle. Supposing what? Yes.
Hold on, sir. Let me.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I want to hear of you.
Yes, I'm a lawyer. Yeah. I'm a lawyer principally.
Good. So we want to hear your views.
Yeah, the legal issue here is what she mentioned in passing called conversion. You know,
yes,
it's a principle of common law, so it doesn't respect jurisdiction. Yes. Now, what that means is that there may be a means of, it's not like you have money, they won't allow you to have access to it. Then you have property. Of course, you can't carry landed properties out of that place, but they belong to you. So you can sell them, you can convert them into cash. Yes. Even though under the present circumstances, you may not be able to get real value for it. But the most important thing I need to draw attention to here is that whereas Donald Trump is the president of America, he is not very popular. Are you with me? Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying that it's not all Americans that agree with Donald Trump's policies. And many of the civil societies do not agree with him in particular. So those members of the civil society, of course, like even a United States judge and some civil societies have already gone to court to, question this policy of canceling birthright citizenship. So we are going to see, it's not just the people who are being deported or repatriated that will antagonize the American government in this regard. The civil societies in America will also do the same. The Republicans who do not agree with Donald Trump will do the same. Democrats will want to benchmark on it for the next elections. So it's not going to be a fait accompli for Donald Trump and his supporters as anybody would imagine. So then there are certain international courts, where these issues may come up, even though those has not been clearly defined because there hasn't been any particular precedent in this regard. Because it's not a state of war, the issue of abandoned property will not come up. So there will be some civil proceedings that may be taken to get value for these things. Why I'm saying this is that the element of civil proceedings, when I mean civil proceedings, I mean civil law. Civil law is not exactly documented. It depends on your ability to create a situation and your ability to justify that a right has been breached, unlike criminal law that's entirely documented. So in the days to come, we're going to be seeing some revolution in civil law, both in countries where the deportees are going to, and in America, where some of them who want to latch onto the development to spring to political prominence in the days to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's okay, but what I'm asking here is this. Do you think they will be able to cope with the violence culture that is already on ground? They will be able to displace that violent culture and then latch on to their own kind brand of revolution? Because in nearly all African countries you go to, you must see the street boys. Is that not true?
That's correct. That's correct, sir.
Good.
But then
And these street
then they have
boys
no
are
choice.
being used by the elite class. So how do you now want to bring in something from a very refined society into a society? Not that you don't have street boys in America, you do. But their laws work. Their institutions work. The basic difference is that our institutions and laws does not work.
Yeah, I'm glad you observed that no country has monopoly of violence. Those guys who are coming back, particularly from America, are not as clean as you would imagine because
So
they have.
how do you think now they will be able without
don't see that is
yes.
not
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, the technology is not making me to keep abreast.
Okay, sorry. We have said that earlier on that would be a disruption in Nigeria and other countries where some of these deportees are going. If the governments do not take action, of course, nature abhors vacuum. You know, there'll be implosion.
Yeah.
I said that earlier in my comment. There'll be implosion if nothing is
Certainly
done.
there will be implosion. Yes.
After the implosion,
Yes. But let me ask
we're
this
able to
question.
recover strong.
Recover strong. Yes, there will be implosion. You've said that again and again.
Yes, sir.
Again and again, you've said that. But my concern here is this. What do we do to reparation of their wealth? Because I do understand that there are a lot of instances where people are repatriated, and then the government will not say it is their wealth or funds that have been sold to repatriate them.
I thought I addressed that earlier on when I was saying
Yeah.
that there's no state of war, so the element of abandoned property may not feature permanently. Now, this is forced evacuation.
Yes.
And I don't think there's a position on the international law where, these things happen. And I'm saying this I'm saying this with a due, all sense of responsibility, because under international law, might is still right. So these things will happen.
It's okay.
Many will not recover.
Network is really disturbing me.
Yes, sir. So these things will happen. Many will not recover. And nothing will happen about it because, like I said, at that level, at country level, might is also still right and will continue to be right. And when it's America that does it, nothing comes out of it. If you take them to World Court or ICJ or whatever, they do not even subscribe to those courts. So many people will be without remedies. But then I'm saying that founded on the principle of law, which says that where there's right, there's a remedy. Ubi jus, ibi remedium. There will always be a way. It might not favor everyone. Just like what I've said again, that the first thing to do is to apply the principles of conversion. Sell off your property, convert it into cash, and see how you move your cash out of that.
Yes.
And things like that. And I'm saying that this will spring up a new form of legal actions that are maybe not exactly, in the books as we speak, or hasn't been experienced in a long while. Charity, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, what I want to say is that our government needs to be proactive to take some steps to forestall these expectations, especially in ensuring that once there is going to be, or once the repatriation starts, they should create a proper documentation for everyone coming in. So they will take account of the people that are coming in, know their capabilities, know what they can do and achieve. They can use some of them very effectively to help our own economy. They can be brainboss to help us strategize to better our own economy and our society. So, but without that step, we will lose out on everything. But they can actually be a great assistance to our economy. And they too will be willing to offer because they want to have a better society, just like where they are coming from. So if we have them documented and then give them some incentive because they are new in the environment and government is friendly with them, we are going to have a positive outcome rather than the negative. That's my stick.
It's okay. That's fine. It's a wise suggestion, and I think
Yes.
Hello. Hey, network.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's a wise suggestion, and
We can hear you. So, I think our takeaway
hello.
from here is just that this conversation needs to be enlarged, and yes,
Enlarged,
probably
yes.
we may have to draw their attention. They may not know. We need to draw the Diaspora Commission, the attention of the Diaspora
It's okay. I'm
Commission to
happy.
these possibilities. Maybe
I'm happy,
they
like you
can
said, Prof.
convene. Yes, sir. They can convene an enlarged conversation over this, and that has to be done quickly.
Quickly. It's all right, Prof. I deeply appreciate. And Barrister
Charity.
Charity, I also appreciate your contributions.
Thank you very much.
Incidentally, my side, the technology we are talking about was not friendly too. But I thank you so much, and I also thank Professor Odeme. Having said that, let me bring this section to a close while we hand over to Cecilia and Dr. Hope Weja for their closing remarks. Cecilia, can I hear you, please?
All right, sir.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
So
sir.
let me hand you, or just give us 5-10 minutes if people, 5 minutes for people to ask questions. Sorry, it was a mistake. Is there any questions, please? Let's ask questions from the crowd. Hello? Do we have anyone with questions from the participants? Well, it appears yes, none. Well, we don't have any.
Hello.
Hello, yes. Yes, go ahead.
Mine is just a
Go ahead.
contribution.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that Africa must be proactive, and this will be the responsibility of our leaders, all the various countries and their leaders should wake up. This policy will drive development rather than seeing it as a
liability.
negative
Yes, I agree with
policy. We can convert the negativity to positivity by first
that is very, very correct.
Reaching out to all Africans in Europe and America that intends to come back home. We must reach out to them in the light of the present.
Sorry, let me interrupt here. Do you think our leaders have this capacity to do it?
Yes, I believe so. It's just that the bureaucratic system of our government may be very slow. But like the government of Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu now is proactive than other previous government that we have. So it is my advice that our president,
but what I'm asking,
particularly Nigerians that are in America, that may want to take
the African Union by
not allowing
composition, does
them
it
to
have
be
that
repatriated
capacity?
rather than coming on their own, so that we can do planning ahead. Let them indicate. Once the indication is done, the government will plan their arrival. And even their departure from the U.S. such that whatever it is will be negotiated. You know, it's better if between Nigeria and America, their exit is negotiated and their return to the country is negotiated. It will better serve the purpose, and it will be the game changer, because those potentials that are coming back will be well managed by the various countries that are involved. I think by so doing, the immigration policy would have been tending towards development rather than the woes that the policy can bring to our nations or our countries. And they are also at the African Union level. Now they also have a big role to play in talking to President Trump and all the other stakeholders on how to handle gradually these immigration processes in order to consider humanity so that the human face can be added to it. You understand? So you cannot just sleep and tomorrow you are arrested, next tomorrow you are taken back home without preparation, without the management of the kids and all the rest. So it's my candid advice that the Nigerian government and with at the level of the African Union and the AGOA, they must look out for how to put a human face to the policy and convert it to our development because we need those people home. We need them home.
Yeah.
You know, somebody have left the family for 16 years, for 20 years.
It's all right. Well, I appreciate everyone's contribution.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate everyone's contribution. We have eaten deep into the time. Let me hand you back to Cecilia and Dr. Hope. Cecilia.
All right, thank you very much, sir, Professor Bramwell. Thank you very much, sir, for moderating the panel session. So right now we are about to close and we'll invite Dr. Hope, the Vice President of the Africa Economic Forum, for the closing remark. Dr. Hope, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Precious. First, I want to thank our very esteemed guests, colleagues, and friends. And in particular, I want to appreciate the panelists. I cannot thank you enough. I want to, in no particular order, I want to thank Professor Bramwell Amadasun. Of course, he's an insider, but we want to appreciate him for taking his time. Professor Deme and his colleague from Veritas, we want to thank you and also to appreciate you most seriously. I want to thank Dr. Paul, who have taken his time from his very busy schedule at the Institute to be with us here. Of course, I'm not forgetting the politician, Mr. Moses, for taking his time to be with us. Yeah, and a lot of others, very distinguished personalities in their own right, both from government, civil society, too many to mention here. I also want to recognize Dr. Guinea, the ex-executive secretary who is also with us here today, and the former special assistant to the Honorable Minister of Health, who is also privileged to be with us here today, and several others too important to mention, even especially those outside Nigeria who took their time to be with us here. I want to say I'm highly honored to have witnessed this section that focused on exploring the implications of President Donald Trump's second-term policies on trade and economic relations with South Africa. As we came together today to discuss this important topic, it is vital for us to keep in mind the potential impact of these policies on both the United States and the opportunities and challenges that this will throw ahead. We must not forget that President Trump has just withdrawn the United States from the World Health Organization with the potential consequences on global health, particularly as it relates to Africa, because the United States alone accounts for about 25% of the budget of the World Health Organization. So with their withdrawal, the issues here goes beyond just immigration, trade, and economic relations. It may also affect health, particularly in Africa. But of course, that was not a major focus during this section. I want to appreciate the various analyses that took place, particularly subjecting the Donald Trump's policies to scrutiny and debate, particularly as it's going to affect international trade and economic relations. Over the past 4 years, we have witnessed the implementation of various measures aimed at reshaping American trade policy, including the renegotiation of trade agreements, the imposition of tariffs on key trading partners, and the prioritization of bilateral trade deals over multilateral agreements. We can see that in the last few days of Trump's assumption of office, he has increased tariffs, particularly in their relationship with China. As we look ahead to his second term, it is essential that we continue to review how his policies are going to affect Africa. I must say I was really excited in the sense that a lot of the analysis looked not just at the potential effect of his policies, but also went ahead to look at how Africa can position itself to ensure that we do not become victims, but we actually will become better as a result of policies that initially were taken to hurt Africa. In conclusion, I want to say that moving forward, Africa should position itself not to always wait for policies to be pronounced, but rather to prepare for such governments and for such policies even before they take off. Like one of the panelists said today, one of my strongest worries is that my country may have to wait until they start receiving cheap loads of those that are being evacuated from United States before they will come about new policies to address what Donald Trump had actually been declaring almost several months back. So on behalf of the Africa Economic Forum, I want to tell you that we most appreciate all of you that were gathered here today, and we look forward to continue engagement with you all. We also want to thank in particular those who are not only attending here today, but are attending our program for the first time, and want to continue to assure them that we value their partnership, and we look forward to a continued relationship. I also want to end by thanking my colleague from the National Health Insurance Authority who took all their time to honor Africa Economic Forum and also myself. I also want to, at this time, recognize Alhaji Ateza, who has been my colleague for several years and who has always been at my side multiple times. I really want to appreciate you. So on behalf of the Africa Economic Forum, I wish to declare this particular webinar closed. Thank you, God bless, and have a very wonderful weekend. Thanks, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. Cheers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.